My daughter called me petty for not wanting her mom's affair partner at her wedding. I walked out of her life and never looked back. Hello Reddit I plus here. I was never supposed to be the villain in my daughter's life. Her name is Lila. She's 27 now, beautiful, sharp, and headstrong. Just like her mother. I raised her mostly alone after the divorce. Her mom Diane was in and out, busy finding herself, which I later realized was code for sleeping with someone else while I was working double shifts to keep us above water. Diane and I were married for 12 years. We were solid, or so I thought. I was a father, a husband, a provider. I wasn't flashy, but I was steady. Until one night, Lila was 10. I remember it clearly. She was working on a solar system model for science class, and I went to grab glue from the garage. I picked up Diane's phone by accident. It buzzed on the table, and I saw a message that made my hands go cold. I miss last night already. Wish you were in my bed again. It was signed with a little heart emoji and the name, Travis. Travis was a family friend. My friend, actually. We'd worked together years before, and he'd stayed in our circle. We'd hosted him for dinners. He came to our barbecues. He played chess with me in the living room. Hell, I'd driven him to the hospital when his mom died. And the whole time, he was screwing my wife behind my back. I didn't confront her that night. I couldn't. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I put the phone down and helped Lila glue Jupiter into place. But within a week, I filed for divorce. Quietly. Cleanly. Diane tried to spin it as, we just grew apart. And for Lila's sake, I let that narrative ride. I didn't want to poison her against her mother. Diane moved in with Travis before our papers were even signed. That was 17 years ago. I kept things cordial with Diane because of Lila. I went to parent-teacher conferences, school plays, her soccer games. I was at every birthday, every scraped knee, every tough homework night. When she got accepted into her first-choice college, she called me before she even told her mom. I thought that meant something. So when Lila called me a few months ago, her voice bubbling with excitement about her wedding, I was happy, genuinely happy. She told me she'd met a man named Jonah, kind, respectful, steady. Like you, Dad, she'd said. That made my chest tighten in the best way. She asked me to walk her down the aisle, and I said, of course. Then she hesitated. There's something I want to talk to you about, she said. Turns out, Travis, her mom's affair partner, the man who helped blow up our family, was going to be at the wedding. I want him to come, she said. He's been in my life a long time, Dad. I went quiet. Are you asking me to be okay with sitting in the same pew as the man who destroyed our home? She got defensive. It's my day. I don't want drama. Travis isn't your enemy anymore, is he? I didn't yell. I didn't curse. But I told her I couldn't do it. I wouldn't sit there and play pretend. And she said the word that still echoes. Dad, you're being petty. Not hurt. Not disappointed. Not conflicted. Petty. I don't think she meant it to slice the way it did. But she cut me wide open. I told her I hoped the wedding was beautiful. I hoped Jonah was everything she dreamed. But I wouldn't be attending. I expected tears. Pleading. Some sort of reckoning. Instead, there was silence. Then a cold, suit yourself? And the call ended. That was 6 months ago. The wedding happened. I saw photos on Facebook. Mutual friends, distant relatives. Diane glowing in mother of the bride white like it wasn't weird. Travis beaming beside her, holding her hand like he hadn't snuck around behind mine. And Lila, my daughter, walking down the aisle on his arm. It felt like I had died. Or worse, like I never existed. I boxed up her childhood photos 2 weeks later. Not in anger, in mourning. I couldn't keep looking at those memories, knowing they no longer meant anything to her. I didn't return her call when she left a voicemail around Christmas. I deleted it after the first sentence. I just wanted to say I hope you can move past. Move past? Last week, I got a knock on the door. It was Diane. She looked older, tired, more real than she had in years. I didn't invite her in. She didn't ask. She didn't know, she said. Didn't know what? She thought I left you because we fell out of love. She didn't know about the affair. I never told her. I just stared at her. She found out, Diane said. Last month, Travis and I had a fight. He told her everything. How we started seeing each other. That we were already together when I left you. That he used to come over when you were working night shifts. I leaned against the door frame, my stomach knotting. She's angry, James. Really angry. She said she feels like a fool. She cut Travis out completely. And me. She moved out of state with Jonah last week. I didn't say anything. There was nothing to say. She wants to talk to you. She said she finally understands what she put you through. That maybe she judged you without knowing the whole story. I nodded, more to myself than to Diane, and then I said, I wish her well. But I'm done. Diane looked surprised. She's your daughter, she said softly. She was, I said. And I loved her enough to let her believe the best of you. I ate that pain for 17 years so she could have two parents to love. But when she chose him over me, knowing I had only ever been there for her, that was her choice. I closed the door before she could reply. Some stories don't end with fireworks, or a reunion, or a neat little bow. Some end with a quiet truth. Love is not always enough, not when trust is broken. I didn't walk away out of spite. I walked away because I finally accepted that sometimes the people we bleed for will choose the ones who made us bleed, and I refused to sit in that front row and smile like none of it happened. That was the day I let go, and I haven't looked back since. About 6 months later when I got a letter. Not a text, not an email, a real handwritten letter tucked into a plain white envelope with no return address. The handwriting was unmistakable. Lila's cursive, the same she used when she wrote me a Father's Day card in 3rd grade and spelled hero as Harrow. I still have that card. Somewhere. I didn't open it right away. I left it on the kitchen table for 3 days, moving it from one end to the other like it was ticking. Like maybe I wasn't ready to see her try and rewrite the past. But one night, I poured myself a glass of bourbon, sat down, and read it. Dad, I don't know how to start this, except to say I was wrong. I was so wrong. I've thought about that phone call every day since. The word petty makes me sick now. I don't even know why I said it. I think I was trying to protect something. Maybe my idea of a perfect day, maybe my denial. You were always there, always. When Mom missed piano recitals, you were there. When I was scared to take my driving test, you were the one who drove with me around empty parking lots until I got it right. When I called crying because Jonah and I had our first big fight, it was you who picked up at 2 a.m. and talked me down. And when I told you I was getting married, your voice cracked with pride. I should have known then. I thought Travis was just part of the past. A weird footnote. I didn't know the depth of it. Mom made it sound like your marriage just dissolved. She never told me about the affair. Not until after the wedding, when things with Travis started to unravel and he got mean. Angry. He said things that made my skin crawl. He told me things he shouldn't have, and I realized what you'd swallowed for all those years. You never made Mom the villain. You let me love her without baggage. You didn't make me choose. But when I asked you to sit next to him, to share space with the man who betrayed you, I made you choose. And I chose wrong. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. All of it. And I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I love you, Dad. If there's a way back, I'll wait for it. Lila. I cried. I hadn't cried in years. Not at the divorce. Not when I saw her wedding pictures. But I cried for the 10-year-old girl who thought gluing planets onto a cardboard sheet was more important than what was cracking underneath her roof. I cried for the man who stayed silent to protect her. And I cried for the father who didn't know if he'd ever hear I love you again, without bitterness attached. But I didn't call her. Not yet. I sat with it. I needed to know if I wanted to reopen that door, or just look through the window for a while. 3 months later, I was out at a hardware store, picking up paint for the guest room I hadn't used in years. A little girl passed me in the aisle, dragging a stuffed tiger and asking her dad why some paints had eggshell in them if they weren't made from eggs. I smiled, remembering Lila at that age. And then I heard, softly behind me, "Dad?" I turned. There she was. No makeup. Hair in a messy bun. A grocery bag in one hand. That same nervous tuck of her lip into her teeth like she used to do when she got caught sneaking candy. She didn't say anything else. She just looked like she was holding her breath. So I opened my arms. She dropped the bag, and we stood in the middle of aisle 17, surrounded by primer and varnish, and cried like strangers who had finally found the road back home. Final reflection. We didn't fix everything in one hug. That's not how healing works. But we met for coffee the next day, and the next week. We talked, we argued, we relearned how to trust, and eventually, I told her the full story. Not for revenge, but because she deserved the truth, finally. Without filters. She's in therapy now. Real therapy. The kind that helps her dig through the wreckage of what her mother and I left behind. And she's expecting a child. A daughter. She asked me if I'd be part of her life. Not just as a grandfather, she said, but as the kind of father I want to model. I said yes. Because love doesn't always mean forgetting the pain. Sometimes, it means walking through it together. If both of you are willing to bleed a little to get back to each other. So no. I didn't look back that day, but I did leave the porch light on, and eventually, she came home.